Oh my gosh, I hope you guys feel at least a little bit silly for giving me an applause for merely saying that there are two sexes, that you can't change your sex, that each sex is deserving of equal opportunity, of privacy, and of safety. What a blessing it is to be here. Oh my gosh, this is not often the setting that I find myself in, which might not be a shock to many of you. Most of the time when I go on campuses across the country, they want to throw me off a bridge. So to be here with you guys where I'm well received is deeply appreciated from the bottom of my heart. It wasn't too long ago I was in San Francisco, which was my first mistake, actually, going to San Francisco. But I went to San Francisco State University to speak to a Turning Point chapter, very similar to this. But I guess I was just naive to believe that the students and community members would come with an open mind and the willingness to have their hearts softened, because they did not. They came with pitchforks and fire. And upon delivering my message, in a similar forum even, it was a classroom setting, so there's a whiteboard behind me and a podium at the front and doors at the back, seats out in the audience. Upon delivering my message, a group of protesters rush in, hundreds of them, and they turn off the lights to the room and they ambush me. I'm fully accosted, I'm being pushed, I'm being shoved, I'm being punched in the face by these men wearing dresses, which fortunately for me, their punches don't really hurt that bad. But nonetheless, these protesters, they ended up holding me for ransom. They barricaded me in a room and they held me there for almost 5 hours through the middle of the night, demanding that if I wanted to make it back home to see my family safely again, I had to pay them money. You might be wondering, where were the police? We were in San Francisco, so the police were being held for ransom with me. Hour 3, hour 4, I'm looking at the officers, can't you do something? Actually, isn't it your job to do something? To which they verbatim said, no, we can't do anything. We're not allowed to do anything because we're not allowed to be seen as anything other than an ally to this community, or else we'll lose our jobs. Again, the same community who's on the other side of the door, calling these officers racist pigs for protecting a white girl like me. Anyways, the dean of students ends up showing up. Keep in mind, it's midnight, literally the middle of the night, and he starts negotiating with the students how much I owed each of them to be able to leave, which the price they ultimately agreed upon was $10 each, which makes me mad because I think I'm worth more than $10. Anyways, eventually I was able to get out of this room, not because the protesters dispersed, but about 40 or so officers formed a diamond around me. We pushed out. But the most remarkable part about this story is what happened the next day, when the vice president of student affairs at the university sent out a university-wide email. So to all faculty, all students, all professors, and in this email she said, "We are so proud of our brave students for handling Riley Gaines in the manner that they did. We know how deeply traumatic her presence is on this campus, and so here's some counseling resources for you all. Take the day off of school." They literally got the day off of school. I bet you guys wish you got that tomorrow. Just know that we see you, we hear you, we love you, and we stand with you. Nowhere in this email did it condemn violence against women for that matter. Nowhere in this email did it say that we uphold, we understand the value of our First Amendment rights of free speech. No, of course not. I could describe what feels like hundreds of scenarios very similar to that one. So when I say I'm grateful to be here, please know I really do mean that from the very bottom of my heart. And thank you to Father Dave as well. What a beautiful campus that you've been able to really foster and develop. Wonderful people here. Thank you to all the staff, all the law enforcement who made this event a breeze. I think we should give them a round of applause. I will say, it's a lot different for me to be on a campus now compared to 6 months ago. Maybe some of you share the same sentiment that I did in watching and in witnessing, which I hate that I had to witness this. It's a video that will live on the internet forever, so graphic and so horrific. Charlie Kirk being assassinated. Not only was he technically my boss at Turning Point, but more so he was a friend of mine, a mentor really to me, one of the most intellectual and articulate and effective minds of our time, influencing people like you, people like me, those Gen Zers, those pesky Gen Zers. That's what he cared so deeply about. And then we all watched as he was prematurely taken from this earth, right? I mean, the shock that you initially feel. I lived in like a state of disbelief for 24 hours, where you're watching the news and it has like the black and white photo of Charlie and it's got the year he was born through 2025. Like, it felt totally surreal. I didn't even really feel grief initially in seeing this. I just felt shocked. And then, of course, that turns to grief and it turns to tearfulness. And then I'm not proud to say, but it kind of turned into rage and anger. You know, how could something like this happen? We live in the greatest, most free nation in the entire world. How could something like this happen? And then watching people celebrate it online. You have teachers or healthcare professionals or government employees celebrating his assassination, all while claiming to be morally superior. Amazing, right? But being here today, I don't feel angry. Yes, still believing, of course, that's a circumstance that never should have happened to Charlie or to anyone. But I feel inspired, and I feel hopeful, and I feel encouraged about the future, seeing all of you. I was thinking about which direction I kind of want to take this in. I'll start by mentioning just a few of the wins that we have seen, to start, I guess, with some encouragement. Praise God, Donald Trump is back in the Oval Office. Day one, we saw several executive orders being signed as it pertains to this issue. Signed an executive order declaring there are only two sexes, male and female. Amazing to me that a sitting president has to take time out of his day, has to exercise his executive authority to declare such, but nonetheless important. I got to stand beside the president as he signed his executive order barring men from participating within or in any women's sports within any educational program that receives federal funds. And it was so cool because this was a year ago now, a little more than a year ago. Maybe some of you can remember like the visuals or the pictures, the images that surfaced following this. You've got President Trump surrounded by a sea of young girls. It's like 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old girls, and they've got their jerseys on or their uniforms or their big bows in their hair that they wear in the soccer field. That visual means more to me than I could possibly put into words. One more win, I guess, that I can mention that my family has been able to personally benefit from since President Trump was inaugurated as the 47th president. I actually have my husband in the back. He's the tall British guy holding the baby. I know. It's funny because while he is a Brit, number one, he recognizes that he was born on the wrong side of the revolution. And if he's not willing to admit it, I remind him every July 4th. But also living in Nashville, he has like this awesome country British accent. It's the best. He came over to the States to swim. That's where we met. He swam at the University of Kentucky as well. We started dating. We got married in my senior year. And so that was in 2022. So we've been married coming up on 4 years now. And of course, when you marry an alien, which is what I call him all the time, a legal alien, legal alien. Of course, you have to go through the immigration process. This wasn't a shock to myself nor him. We have an immigration lawyer. He tells us, look, you'll apply for your green card. It'll take 6 months, 8 months max. No big deal. We do that. We wait 6 months. We wait a year. We wait a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years. We'd heard nothing from USCIS or immigration services under the previous administration. we began to reach out, inquire, what's the holdup? It's been 3 years at this point. Reaching out to every agency, every department, no one could point us in the right direction until finally we get a letter to our house that, said request for evidence. And so we open it and it says, sorry, we can't give you your green card because your medical record is not complete. And what was missing from my husband's medical record in the year 2025? The ineffective under-researched COVID vaccine. That's why they weren't willing to give him his green card. And so I thank God that my husband just really wasn't willing to compromise on his health or what he knew to be the right thing in that way. And so we waited, and I thank God that President Trump won. He was inaugurated in January. I gave it 24 hours before I pick up the phone. Hey, did you know this mandate that I would deem illegal is still in place nationwide? He said, no, give me 2 hours. And literally within 2 hours, it was not a text or a call. I got one of the Fox News breaking alerts on my phone, and it said, President Trump vacates nationwide mandate requiring legal immigrants to get the COVID vaccine. So it wasn't too long before we came here that we got this little green card in the mail. I don't know why I didn't think it was a green card. Spoiler alert, it's literally a green card. I could speak to the wins that we have seen for the rest of my allotted time, but I guess I just say that to say I'm not tired of the wins yet. Just a little brief background on me. I was an athlete. I was a swimmer. Started swimming when I was 4, graduated when I was 22, so dedicated 18 years of my life to my sport, which I know I don't have to explain that to many of you in this room. Those of you who play sports, those of you who are former athletes, maybe parents of athletes, right? You get it. The time, the hours, the dedication, the sacrifices that you have to make to compete at and ultimately be successful at the highest level. I was no different. Started getting recruited, ended up taking a visit to University of Kentucky. I come from a family of SEC athletes. My dad played football. My mom played softball. My oldest sister played softball. My brother is in college now. He plays football. My little sister, she's 17. She's a gymnast. Dare I say, she's the best athlete out of all of us. She will go on to do incredible things. I would never tell her that, by the way. So knew I was going to stay in the SEC, took a trip to Kentucky. I fell in love. Committed there, couldn't have been a better place for me. Very proudly finished my career there as a 12-time NCAA All-American, a 5-time SEC champion, actually the SEC record holder in the 200 butterfly, making me one of the fastest Americans of all time. 2-time Olympic trial qualifier, SEC Scholar Athlete of the Year, SEC Community Service Leader of the Year. The list goes on, but just to highlight the point, it's a lifelong journey. I'll flash forward to my senior year. Geared up, ready to go for our national championships, which is the meet you work not just all year, not just your 4 years in college. It's the meet you work all your life for, really. The pinnacle of our sport, the fastest meet in the world, comparatively even faster than the Olympics. And so I had set a goal to win a national title, which would mean, of course, becoming the fastest woman in the country in my respective event. Geared up, ready to go. I'm seated 3rd. I knew the girl who was seated 2nd, the girl I was trailing by a few 100ths of a second, very small margins. I knew her very well. But the swimmer who was leading the nation, by body lengths, might I add, was a swimmer that I had never heard of before. Nor my teammates, my coaches, none of us had ever heard of this person before. Lots of red flags upon reading this person's name. Looking up the history of this person, they don't exist until that season. It's a senior from University of Pennsylvania, which is not a school that has ever produced this caliber of swimmer. Again, leading the nation by body lengths and events ranging from the 100 freestyle, which is a sprint, all the freestyle events in between through the mile. I'm scratching my head. I'm talking to my coaches. Who is this? We had no idea. And we continued to stay in the dark until an article came out disclosing that Leah Thomas is actually Will Thomas and swam 3 years on the men's team at University of Pennsylvania before deciding to switch to the women's team his senior year. When I read this, I was shocked, right? Naturally, my whole team was shocked. But really, I felt a sense of relief when I read this. It was like, oh, duh, that makes sense. This person's a man. That feeling of relief was only further solidified when I went to look up who Will Thomas was, because admittedly, I was curious. Was this a lateral movement? Someone who went from ranking amongst the best of the men to now continuing to rank amongst the best of the women? Which is, of course, not what we saw. We saw that this was a very mediocre, actually, that's probably generous. Really, this was a less than average male swimmer competing in his rightful division, the men's division at the D1 level, ranking in the 400s and 500s nationally, until just 12 months later, dominating the entire country of women. But again, why I say I felt relieved. I thought the NCAA would see it how I saw it, and how my teammates saw it, and how my coaches saw it, and how my parents saw it, and how anyone with any amount of brain activity would probably comprehend this. Nothing hateful about it, nothing opinionated even about it. Looking at the facts on the paper in front of us. But lo and behold, the NCAA did not see it that way. They saw absolutely nothing wrong with this. And so about 3 weeks before that national championships, they released a statement saying that his participation in the women's division was a non-negotiable, meaning there's nothing we could do. No questions we could ask, no concerns that we could raise. We were quite literally told we had to accept this with a smile on our face. And so I watched that first day. It was the 500 freestyle, which is not an event that I typically do. And so I watched as he swam to a national title in the 500, beating out Olympians, beating out American record holders. Again, these aren't scrubs. They're the most impressive and accomplished female swimmers this world has ever seen. And he beat them all by body lengths. The next day was the 200 free, which is the event that he and I raced in. And so, you get on the block. It's your championship final, so it's the top 8 women in the entire country. And I look over at the lane next to me, and there was what was very visibly a man. I mean, like, no exaggeration, standing at 6'4", his size like 15 feet, taking up the entire block. Right? It's like a South Park episode, or like a Babylon Bee headline, or like an SNL skit when SNL was actually kind of funny. That was like the blueprint for the kind of like documentary style of what we were going through. Dove off the block, swam 8 laps of freestyle, touched the wall at the end. I look up at the scoreboard behind me. And almost impossibly enough, we had tied, meaning we went the exact same time down to the 100th of a second, which, I mean, number one, is kind of embarrassing for a 6'4" man. He couldn't even beat me. But 2, it's rare, right? You're racing for 1 minute and 40 seconds, and not even 1/100th of a second separated us, which, looking back now, you can't tell me that's not divine intervention. But anyways, what really thrusted me over the edge, I'm ashamed to say, I don't think that would have been enough if it just ended right there. Yes, of course, enough to recognize it was wrong and harmful, and to see the trajectory of where we were going, where we were headed. But I don't think it would have been enough for me to say something about it, to do something, to lend my voice or my name to this issue. But that's not where it ended. We go behind the awards podium where the NCAA official looks at both him and me, him towering over me, and he says, "Great job, you two, but you tied, and we don't account for ties. We only have 1 trophy, so we're going to give the trophy to him." They said her. I'm not saying her. "We're going to give the trophy to him. Sorry, Riley, you just don't get one." I was so taken aback in this moment, having just competed. My heart rate was still high. My adrenaline was still pumping. The first thing that I thought ended up being the first thing that I said. And I asked the dreaded question, really, the question no one dared ask all season. And I said, why? Why are you giving the trophy to the man in the women's 200 free? What's the rationale? What's the thought process here? Help me understand. To which he didn't have an answer. They didn't give him a script of what to say when someone asked the question, why? And so I appreciate his honesty. The official, he his face changed at this point. He sounded sad. He looked sad. I could tell he didn't even believe what he was about to say. And he said, Riley, I'm so sorry. But we have been advised as an organization that when photos are being taken, it's crucial that the trophy is in his hands. You can pose with this one, but you have to give yours back. He takes the trophy home. You go home empty-handed, end of story. And let me tell you what, that was the moment when I was just really unwilling to wait for someone else, because that's what I had been doing. Again, call it cowardice. I just more so believed someone else would fix it. It wasn't my responsibility. I was the one competing. What about people within the NCAA? Coaches, people with political power. I thought maybe some other swimmer, someone's dad, quite frankly, would come down there and yank this man out of our locker room like my dad so desperately wanted to do. But it was in that moment, on that podium, sharing my placement with a man standing 8-9 inches taller than me, holding this trophy I knew I had to give back, when I just had this realization of, Riley, how in the world can you expect someone to stand up for you if you're not even willing to stand up for you? This has to come from you all as women, as female athletes. So that's kind of the unfairness of it, coupled with the locker room aspect, which I briefly alluded to. But to just provide some color there, like, it's impossible to verbalize how violating it is and humiliating and how awkward and embarrassing and uncomfortable it is to be in an intimate area of undressing, such as a swimming locker room, and to have a fully grown, fully naked, fully intact man undressing himself inches away from where you were simultaneously undressed. I remember just feeling betrayed, actually. That's how I felt in that moment. The institution that I loved, that I trusted, that I believed had my best interest at heart, an institution that I dedicated my life to, really, threw my rights to privacy out of the window without even a second thought, without even bare minimum forewarning us that he would be sharing this changing space with us. And I think those two things, in collaboration with the silencing tactics that we face as women, as female athletes, to stay quiet. I had to go to sensitivity training, which it didn't really work, but I had to go. Where my university sat me down, a 21-year-old senior in college at the time, and they taught me how to use she, her pronouns. I had to keep going through this training until verbatim they felt like I had been properly re-educated. They told us we would lose our scholarship, we'd lose our friends you've had your whole life. They're not going to want to talk to you anymore if you speak about this. Riley, you want to go to dental school. No dental school will ever even look at your application if you speak about this. You'll never get a job. It's standard practice at your employer. They're going to look you up. And if you speak, they're going to see that you're a transphobe. And you don't want that. What they called outside professionals coming in and sitting us down and saying, look, girls, this rhetoric that you're using, by merely opposing him in the pool, that was our dangerous rhetoric. Someone somewhere could harm themselves because of it. And it would be your fault. You would be responsible for potential death, and that would make you a murderer. And you don't want to have blood on your hands. So just be kind. It sounds like what you're advocating for as it pertains to the locker room. You don't want him sharing that space. You know who else advocated for policies like that? The KKK. You're advocating for segregation, effectively, and you don't want to be a racist, do you? These are just a few of the things they told us. That's why so few were willing to speak about this, not because they thought it was fair or just or righteous or moral or good by any means, but because they were terrified, and understandably so. Long story short, believe it or not, that's the in short version. That is how I have found myself here. And let me tell you just a few of the things that I have learned over the past few years. First and foremost, I have learned that gender ideology, it is an evil lie. It is an evil lie from the pit of hell. It is a lie that is built on deception and discouragement and destruction. And who does that sound a lot like, by the way? Who deceives, who discourages, who destroys? Satan does. It's a lie that enforces the idea, to children or adults for that matter, that they're correct to feel as if they're born wrong. They're correct to feel as if God made a mistake on them. What a horrible message. It's no wonder, and I say this with a very heavy and tragic heart, that there's such a high suicide rate amongst this demographic. We're telling them they're correct to feel as if they're born wrong? What a horrible thing to say. We should be telling them that they were created uniquely and intentionally in God's perfect image, and how amazing is it that we have a creator who doesn't make mistakes. So that's one thing I've learned. Secondly, in terms of the medicalization side of things, I've learned it's a very profitable business. And I don't think it will be too long, at least I pray, it's not too long before we look back and accurately call that what it is, which is the biggest medical scandal this world has ever seen, and cutting off healthy body parts and sterilizing children, human beings. What a sinister thing. And to that point, few things more sinister, but I say now as a new mom, one thing I believe to be more sinister than cutting off healthy body parts is prematurely ending life before those body parts ever even get a chance to develop. Being a mom, our baby girl, she's now just at 5 months. It has been the most fulfilling and rewarding and satisfactory and purposeful thing as a woman, if you can go through, that you possibly could go through. It has changed me radically. And I say that I've always been a conservative because I've always been a Christian. So I've always had a pro-life understanding. I could argue it. I believed politically. I believed it morally. I thought about it intellectually. But her being here, witnessing the beautiful creation, the miracle of life, it has made the thought of abortion hurt, deeply and viscerally. Just a few of the things I've learned. One more thing I think pertinent to mention is how our language has been impacted. Words, heck, woman. Now we even have people who are approaching this conversation in good faith, who call themselves biological beings, I'm a biological woman. Such a silly thing, isn't it, when you think about it? Stop that. Adding that prerequisite of biological, because what you're doing subconsciously, by the way, which is how they prefer it to be, you're subconsciously admitting that there's an unbiological alternative to being a woman or a man or a male or a female or a girl or a boy. And there's not. It's just woman. It's just man. Words like compassion. Let me tell you, it's not compassionate what me and my teammates and girls around the country continue to go through. That's not what compassion is, asking young girls to undress in front of men. It's not compassion. And it's not inclusive. They love that word. It's not inclusive to ask us to smile and step aside and allow these men onto our podiums. No, that's exclusive. And it's exclusive to the very female athletes who the women's sporting category was created to protect. And so I guess kind of just finishing it off with a forceful message to you all is to not become complacent, which I would imagine here, especially, it's probably hard to not be complacent. You live in this beautiful, utopia here on this campus. It's amazing. I don't think you guys realize how, actually maybe you do, how blessed you are. But I see it all the time in my home state. I'm from Tennessee. People all the time say, oh, well, President Trump is the president. We don't have to worry about this stuff anymore. We've got a Republican governor, Republican legislature, supermajority. We don't have to worry about these things. We go to a Christian school. Can't happen to us. We're immune right here in this bubble. No one is immune to Satan's tactics and to his methods. Even being here. So don't become complacent. Again, it's hard because that's what success breeds. We've seen a lot of success and victories and wins. Success breeds complacency. But Complacency breeds failure. It's the enemy to growth. It's the enemy to progress. And the other side, and not politically, when I say the other side, I'm not talking about red and blue and Republican and Democrat, liberal, conservative. I guess I could be making the point, those with common sense and those without common sense, believers versus unbelievers. They're not slowing down. They're not allowing themselves to be steamrolled. They're not becoming complacent. Actually, they're leaning in to their extremism, to the destruction and the harm that they're causing. We've seen that, across the board, right? This war on woke, if that's what you want to call it, it has not yet been won. Look at the obvious example is Mamdani in New York City. A self-described Muslim socialist is now leading one of the most, actually probably the most important city as it pertains to capitalism, globally. But beyond that, that was to be expected. The Attorney General race in Virginia, I don't think there's a bigger condemnation of humanity than this guy winning. The state's top law enforcement officer as Attorney General, and it became uncovered in his campaign that he said he wishes to watch the children of his political opponents die in their parents' arms. And he won. That is a condemnation of humanity. And it's up to us as everyday common sense Americans, as Christians especially, to combat that. And how do we combat that? We do that, number one, by knowing the truth. Secondly, by speaking the truth. And third, by living the truth. That's how we combat that. It's what Christ did so well. Yes, we can approach this conversation with grace and with compassion and its true meaning, its true connotation, just as Christ did. Lead with grace, but land with truth always. This is never what I wanted to do. Shocker, right? To be standing here with the platform that I have. I had no background whatsoever that would qualify me for this. I knew nothing about our government. Never had to take a government course at any point in my life, not in high school, not in college, wasn't interested. I was of the mind that politics and government affairs were for old men, not me. I knew we had 3 branches. Didn't know what they did. I still don't really know what they do. I don't even think they know what they do, actually. My public speaking course in college, my face turned the color of a tomato. By no means did I feel prepared for this. But I was just really wrong in assuming that that's how God works, that he calls those who are already prepared. Really quite the contrary. He prepares those who he calls. And if he brings you to something, he'll certainly bring you through it. Just like he did with Moses, who led the Israelites out with Aaron and his staff, just like he did with Joshua, who he promised victory over the Canaanites, just like he did with Esther before she was brought before the king. So trust his calling for you. We all have the same purpose. Purpose and calling are 2 different things. We all have the same purpose, and that's to glorify him. But our callings are different. Maybe some of you have found yours. You feel like you found yours. Maybe some of you haven't. I would encourage you to pray about it and ask him to reveal that to you. And I think he'll make it very, very clear. Would love the opportunity to answer any questions from you guys. And I was told, I was actually sworn to, that if I say, "Fire me up, Barons," you guys would like me. So... And then I had to ask, what's a baron? He said, no, it's who is a baron. So would love the opportunity to answer any questions. And I want to say thank you to the Turning Point chapter here. It's really hard, even when you're amongst like-minded people, other believers, it's hard to stand up for your convictions and for your beliefs. So to be out there and tabling, especially in the colder weather that you have here, colder than what I'm used to in Tennessee, it's not easy. But I think it's proven to be very fruitful. So thank you guys. You guys have done an awesome job.
Is this on? Okay, nice. Hi everyone, my name is Claire Perez. I am the Vice President of Turning Points chapter here at Franciscan. Right now we'll be opening the floor to any of you guys who have any questions for Riley. So if you do, please just start making a line right here in front of me. Just a few reminders, you are not allowed to touch the mic, please do not. And besides that, just don't be rude, please. I doubt you will, because this is Franciscan, but I just had to say that. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, please line up right here.
If you actually want to take another step back, that way Riley can see the question.
All right. We're going to get started. All right, first question.
Hi, Riley. Thanks for being here today. I wanted to ask, a lot of my friends and myself are looking towards the future and getting married and starting families. I just wanted to know, what was one piece of advice that you would give to yourself before you got married and started having kids that you wish you would have knew?
There was a part of me, and I think it's natural when you're getting engaged and married at 21 years old, to be curious about what the future looks like and are you making the right decision. I will say now, being married for, like I said, almost 4 years, I could not do what I do without my husband. Amidst all of the ups and downs and the backlash, the positive headlines, the bad ones, it's a lot of ebbs and flows. My husband is a constant throughout all of that. A rock, my sounding board, my confidant. So I wouldn't be able to do what I do as what I would describe to be a strong woman. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without him. We lean on each other in a way that is really beautiful. It's not a way that makes one of us inferior to the other, but in a way that's complementary of each other. And so my advice to you all is to do it. Get married. It's the most rewarding thing, that and being a mom. That's what gives me, I think, the fortification to go forward with full steam ahead as well. Having a little daughter, looking at her, that's who we're fighting for. Yes, to a degree, we will inherit this country, and I do believe it's the generation before us that kind of put us at a step back. But we're fighting for now the next generation. Girls like my little sister, girls like my little daughter. So it makes it all the more necessary and urgent in combating the cultural movement that we've seen. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Riley. I've been following you for a long time. I've seen you on Hannity. I've seen you at presidential inauguration. Did you ever think, this is what I always wanted to ask you, that this plateau would be so large for you?
How could you? How could you? And again, nothing that I have said is profound. I mean, it's just not, not to, put a knock at myself. I've said nothing that would have been anything other than the default standard position to take 2 decades ago. Nothing that makes me wise, truthfully. But for that, some of the most incredible opportunities, I've met some of the most amazing people, even Margot, our little daughter, she's already met the president, she's met Tom Homan, Secretary Hegseth, Caroline Levitt, she's already lived a life, and she's 5 months. All for saying what I've said here today, nothing more, nothing less. And so, no, I never in my wildest dreams expected it. I never wanted it. I think even still, quite frankly, I have to pinch myself half the time. It's not what feels natural to me, standing with a microphone in my hand or behind a camera. It's just not natural for me. But understanding the time that we live in and the need for voices, so long as God has blessed me with the platform that I have, I will continue to use it for good and to glorify him, most importantly. So no, I never expected to be where I am. Yeah, thank you.
Hello, my name is Paul Bremberg. I'm a senior political science major here at Franciscan, and I had the absolute honor to intern at the America First Policy Institute in Washington over the summer. As someone who wants to go into the political policy space in DC, do you have any advice on how to stay grounded in the whirlwind that is political culture in this country?
Whirlwind is putting it very kindly, by the way. I would say, number one, AFPI, the group you intern with, they're a really phenomenal group. And I think that matters who you are surrounding yourself with and the intentions that they have, because ultimately that influences you and the person that you are and that you can potentially become. So AFPI really is awesome based on my interactions with them. What I will say in terms of number one, effectiveness and how you can see change happen. You see a lot of that at the grassroots level. I think a lot of people want to get involved in politics and they want to start at the federal, national stage. I have found it to be so, you witness change in real time. A lot of what's happening in Washington, D.C., truthfully, is theatrical. It's a lot of performance. Not a lot is getting done. Maybe it's not fair to say that after this past week when there are things moving on a global scale. But a lot of the clips that you see on social media, not a lot of change comes from these speeches you see on the congressional floor, the House floor. But locally, for example, I serve on my county's library board. I didn't even know we had a library board, but I took an issue with even my very red county and putting these sexually explicit and taxpayer-funded books in our libraries where children could access them. I took a problem with this. Obviously, my daughter can't read yet, but thinking of her growing up, other kids in elementary school, I don't want them to be subjected to that. So rather than just complaining about it, which is what I did initially, I ran for library board. We have a meeting tomorrow. And so that is one way I think to feel and witness real change. And it's a really satisfactory feeling. So I would encourage everyone in some way, shape, or form to get involved locally. Really, really fruitful and I think a good use of your time. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Riley. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. You're like an inspiration to me. I have 5 brothers, and I have just noticed through growing up with them, like, how much white straight men are like hated in today's society. And I was just wondering, like, what can we as women like do to like support them? Like, I just feel like women of like today's generation are just like further taking away like from men. Like, they never have like anything that's like theirs anymore. It's just like all taken away. Like, we're just like, we can do like what men can do. We could, but like we have our place and everything in society. And I just wanted to know what your opinion on that was.
Absolutely. This is what happens when you invert reality in the way that we have done. Yes, your like standard straight white male is like the bottom of the oppression totem pole. There really is like an oppression hierarchy. And we see that and we feel the real effects of that. Even in talking about some of these repeat violent criminals, offenders that are being re-released back onto the street. I think a lot of times they're being re-released because they're higher up on that oppression totem pole, and judges or activists, really I think is a better word for a lot of these judges, they don't want to be called racist. We see Keir Starmer, who's the Prime Minister in England, even saying like, Islamophobia is actually the greatest threat that we face as a nation, because he doesn't want to be called any of the derogatory terms that you could be called for pointing out real threats that exist. So to your standard average straight white man, we see you, I guess. My message to you is just to embrace and reinforce reality and the necessity for it when you can. Everyone serves a role, every single person, regardless of identity factor. And that's something we've gotten so wrapped up on, is these identities, these labels. Why do those things matter? Why do you have to preface, like our former press secretary who always had to say, I'm the first Black lesbian, queer, whatever, press secretary holding this position. Why do you have to say those things? That shouldn't be, I guess, a qualifier to who you are and what you represent. So I guess my message is, in their pursuit to be inclusive and to leave behind racism, which we absolutely should, by the way. I think some of these people are the most racist people you'll ever meet. People like Joy Reid. I think she's truthfully one of the most racist people to exist. Even Gavin Newsom the other day in his comments and saying to a room full of African Americans, "I'm just like you. I'm dumb. I scored like a 960 on the SAT. I'm just like you guys. I don't know how to read either." It's like a super racist thing to say in his pursuit of not being racist. So don't let them thwart reality in the way that they've done. Yeah.
Hi, Riley. It's so nice to meet you. You are a big inspiration to me. My mom and I watch your videos all the time. So recently I decided I'm done being silent, and we actually drove 2 hours up from Cleveland to see you speak. And one of the kids in my classmates, I'm an education major, who is transgender, started calling me an alcoholic and among other horrible names, which are all not true. How do you deal with the hate? Because it has been bothering me knowing that we're acting like we're in high school and we're spreading rumors around.
It is so true. And I think once you recognize the tactic as just that, like it's name calling, and that is what you do in like second grade, is you call each other names. It was really hard for me too. I'd be lying if I stood up here and said, from the very beginning, it's been super easy for me to be in this position. It's not easy. I think regardless of who you are, but especially for women, to read some of the things that can be said about you for supporting Trump or for believing in Christ, for that matter, right? Being called a racist, being called a misogynist or a transphobe. Although not true, it's still hard to read them. I was there too. I will tell you now, it is like water off the duck's back for me, because I recognize nothing of this world matters. I am fighting for the hope and the promise of eternal life. And so long as I'm doing what I can as a very imperfect human being to do that, to reach, through salvation, to reach the pearly gates of heaven, then it's in one ear, out the other. And I think with that, it takes practice. It takes, quite frankly, just taking it on the chin. I don't have much better advice than just that. There's no way to prevent slurs or terms or names or phrases from being hurled at you. But with practice, taking it on the chin, it gets easier. And I think you'll feel the ability to stand taller and more unapologetic in the pursuit as well. So take it on the chin and know that we're on this planet for such a short blip of time. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Riley. My name is Grace. I'm a senior at Baldwin Wallace University in Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm also the president of our Turning Point chapter. Back in November, we recently got voted no by our student government, and I just wanted to know, what advice would you give to students like me that are facing this kind of pushback from the administrations on college campuses and being silenced the way that we are?
Well, God bless you, and thank you for continuing to push forward. Here's what I will say to be really effective in combating a lot of these, as I said, and witnessing what I found to be one of the most insane spectacles, really dangerous spectacles, following Charlie's assassination, was noticing the types of people that were celebrating this, where you really did have school teachers, the people entrusted with educating the youth. You have healthcare employees, healthcare workers, the people entrusted with saving lives, and you have government employees who you and I pay their salaries. Those were the categories of people I saw celebrating this. That was a pretty terrifying thought. Number one, we have to get these people out of these positions. And I think the best and most effective way to do that is with public pressure. So get in contact with me. Anything that I can do to help put pressure on these people to do the right thing, because they know what the right thing is. They just want to get away, kind of sweep it under the rug. It's like the old saying of sunlight is the best disinfectant. That has proven to be the case with things like this. Look at Bud Light, for example, right? They thought, I guess it was a good idea to have a man dressed as like Audrey Hepburn drinking beer in a bathtub. I don't know who they thought that would appeal to. I'm no marketing major, but certainly not their target audience, I would believe. They lost essentially $27 billion overnight. And did you see their commercial at the Super Bowl? It's like this beautiful Clydesdale pony and this little egg that falls and this little chick hatches, and you can't tell what the chick is, but then by the end of the commercial you see these big eagle wings and these two rednecks sitting on a porch. Like, they've totally, it's like a 180, right? But that's because there was sunlight that had been shined or shown on what they had been doing secretly. So public pressure works. Get in touch with me. Anything I can do, I would love to help. Yeah, and thank you guys.
My name's Elijah Schneer, and I just wanted to get your opinion on women voting.
Well, I'm not one of those Fuentes types that believes we should repeal the 19th. I'm just not. I think women serve a good role in this society. Now, is it true that if we were to do that, we would have, historically conservative outcomes? Yes, but I think that to be a super detrimental, not good thing, and that's not me.
What do you think about Nick Fuentes?
I think there are things that he says that I believe to be good. I think he does a lot of clickbait interactions. There's a lot of things that he says that I think to be super heinous, particularly as it pertains to children. Like, he said comments about talking about the Epstein files. They're 14, 15 years old. They're not really kids. It's not really pedophilia when you're talking about 14, 15-year-olds. I can't get behind that, of course, especially now, as I said, having a daughter of my own. I don't think that's something that's funny. I don't think that's something that I could align with. And in this conversation, you could kind of approach this in one of two ways, right? Holding hands and uniting to win the midterms or whatever the next goalpost is that continually moves, by the way, or you can call out the bad actors. And I do think we have bad actors who kind of cloak themselves under the conservative movement. And I think Nick Fuentes is one of those. He tweeted even yesterday, like, oh, are you still glad Donald Trump won? Is this still better than Kamala? Yes. Question mark? Like, yes. What are you saying there? So I think he hides himself and he cloaks under this like conservative umbrella, but I don't think someone like Nick Fuentes, I don't think we represent the same ideals. I really don't. And so I believe there's value in calling out the bad actors. Is there stuff he says that I do agree with? Absolutely. But that's like with any single person. There's stuff I agree with and disagree with. But there's some stuff that I just I find to be pretty reprehensible that he has said.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much for being here. I was just wondering, I'm on one of the women club teams here on campus, and it's not uncommon for when we go against other colleges, the teams that we play have transgender men on their teams. I was just wondering, practically, in these situations, how are we supposed to live out the truth?
It's really hard because you're faced with almost this impossible decision, I think, especially when we're talking about sports and you're in the moment and you're competing, right? Like, what do you do? Number one, so many people have failed you that the burden has fallen on your shoulders. There's a lot of fingers we could point. I've sat here and I've talked about the previous administration and the Democratic Party, and yes, certainly you could point a finger in that direction. But you could point the finger back at a lot of different people for ultimately you, as the athlete, to have to be burdened by this. So what do? I think there's a couple options. Number one, which I hate that it's come to this, but not competing. This is a movement that we have dubbed like Project Boycott, with emphasis on the word boy. But let's say you're playing, or you could do a team sport like volleyball or track, right? And you get up to the line and you realize there's a man next to you. Do you know how powerful the visual is of you not going when the gun goes? It's a really powerful visual, and it's the most effective way to say no. Enough is enough. I'm not even going to participate in the farce. And I think with that oftentimes comes change. We've seen that in sports like jiu-jitsu, actually lots of sports, where that sort of boycott practice has resulted in change policies. But It's the sport that you sacrifice. It's the sport that you love. I hate even advocating that, but nonetheless, I do think it takes a lot of bravery to do that. And with that, again, public pressure. These people know this is wrong, especially in the year that we're living in, a totally different cultural, political, social climate that we're living in now than the one that I was competing in 2022. So if that happens, let me know, and I would love to help in any way I can. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Riley. It's so nice to meet you. I'm Bailey. I'm only a freshman in high school, but my question for you was, as someone who wants a future in politics, what is some things I can start doing now to be as successful and impactful as you are?
I think right now where you're at, are you 15, 14, 15 years old? It's so young. Like, you can't even drive a car yet. That's so crazy. But as a 15-year-old, there are a ton of steps that you can be taking to be able to have lasting influence, which not that you have to be in this position or involved politically to have lasting influence, but that can certainly be an outcome. Number one, I would encourage you to absorb as much material as you can. I think whether that's through reading, whether that's through podcasts, whether that's through social media outlets, absorb as much as you possibly can. Know your material. That way, when you're confronted with an issue or an argument, you're able to intellectually defend your political stance and your moral beliefs. So often we have people who believe the way that they do, but when confronted, they can't really back it up. They don't have a lot of substance there, and they feel strongly, but they just don't know. Spend time getting to know the issues that I think you especially care the most deeply and passionately about, and I think you'll see that to help you in the future. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Riley, you've been a really inspiration to me through women's in sports. I just have a question about your opinion on NIL money and how Livy Dunn handles herself, which as a female athlete, I don't think she handles herself very well. And I was just wondering your opinion, do you, as a female athlete, to get NIL money, do you have to be pretty and act like her? Or I'm just curious, because NIL money is mostly given to college football players from what I've heard, so.
I love this, and something I don't get to talk about a lot, but the NCAA, as an institution or an organization, it has failed in so many different arenas. It's proven itself to be absolutely useless in more areas than just one. And I think how it has approached NIL has been really detrimental, especially to women's sports, non-revenue sports, and Olympic sports. We've seen this with, several teams, women's teams, non-revenue teams getting cut in the pursuit of funding fully football, mostly football, some men's basketball programs. But women's sports, Olympic sports, they're on the chopping block. Now, NIL, for me, I think it was introduced maybe my senior year, but it was new, so there wasn't a ton of opportunities for us as female swimmers, of course, naturally, to be able to really profit and benefit from the NIL setup. I would encourage you, if you're an athlete yourself, maybe reaching out to companies, I think especially for non-revenue sports, to get free product in exchange for an endorsement or posting on your socials, because where it stands now, unless you are someone who has obviously the athletic success, but too the platform that comes with it as a woman, it's really hard to benefit from the NIL structure that's in place right now. So I have a real problem with it as it's affecting women's sports, Olympic sports. So, yeah. What sport do you play?
I used to play lacrosse. I don't play any. I'm an education teacher. I got really busy with stuff.
Absolutely, I understand how that goes. Heard you guys have a national championship rugby team here too. That's pretty cool. On the plane, I was sat next to a woman, and she said, where are you going? What are you doing here? I said, I'm going to Franciscan University. She said, oh, the university with the national championship rugby team? So it's cool. It's cool. You guys are renowned.
All right, this will be our last question of the night.
Hi, Riley. Thank you for all you do. You're such an amazing inspiration to us all. I'm one of the athletes on the track and field team here. I was just wondering, what practical advice do you have for us as D3 athletes, the women athletes here, on just how to radiate Christ's truth through our sports, especially at competitions?
Absolutely, I love this. Your team and the people you compete against on a regular basis, whatever it is, that is a circle of influence. Utilize that to the best of your ability. It's something I hear all the time. Well, I can't, have change because I don't have a lot of followers. I don't have whatever prerequisite you think you need to have change. You don't need that. You just need a circle of influence, and you guys as athletes especially, you have that. You guys are role models to so many young kids. Be the best exemplars of Christ that you possibly can be. And I will say, playing sports at whatever level it is, D3, D2, D1, NAIA, it sets you up for success. So lean into all of the resources that you have while you're here, because I think you will find that it helps you in your career path. It's playing sports that taught me how to be a leader. It's playing sports that taught me how to set goals and work to achieve those goals. All things I'm utilizing in my life now, but it's sports that taught me how to be resilient, that taught me how to get back up when you are kicked down. So I would encourage you to do that the best of your ability, and I think you'll find it to be helpful in your life post-college as well. Yeah. Thank you guys very much.
All right, thank you so much for everyone who asked questions. Thank you for everyone who came. Right now we are going to be taking a group photo with all of you guys. So if you are in the third section, please move into any empty seats. If you are in the first couple rows, you are going to have some pick up the mic or like Charlie Kirk or something, some sort of poster. Please hold those up in the photo. If you have an extra, please give it to someone near you. That would just be great. And then Riley, 1 second. Riley, when we're done taking the pictures, there is actually a University of Kentucky alum here who would like you to lead the Cats chant after that.
Am I going to get booed?
No, you won't. If you get booed, I'm going to throw hands.
Okay, got that. And then if you want to lead the chant, you're more than welcome.
It's like singing the national
You
anthem.
can do it. You can do it.
Okay, so we go O-C-A-T-S, cats, cats, cats. You guys are going to be so embarrassed. Okay, ready? Ready? O-C-A-T-S, cats, cats, cats. I love that. I saw the Kentucky shirt and the Kentucky hat over there, so I feel at home.
Thank you.
Somewhere.
Who?
Tess.
My mic is working.
Here we
Do
go.
you want
Tess.
my- Oh, never mind.
Is Riley's husband still here? Good. We're going to ask you to come up, and we're just going to ask the Lord's blessing and pray with you guys. So the university would just like to be able to pray.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Bring the baby.
Okay. A couple of your girls, have them come up. You, Jen, have a couple of your kids come up. We just want to ask the Lord's blessing. We're just very grateful for you guys and the blessings that you are. So we just want to pray and ask the Lord's blessing to be upon you guys. So just invite our community. Go ahead on the other side. Just invite the community to pray with them. Lord, we thank you for Riley and her husband and the yes that they've given to you. We ask your blessing to be upon them. Let them know your love. Continue to show yourself. Jesus, pour out your protection upon them. Lord, that they stand for what is true, what is good, and what is beautiful. Continue to give Riley a voice that opens people's hearts, that allows them to come to know your love, your peace, your joy that comes with the truth. We're reminded of Jesus' words that we will know the truth, and the truth will set us free. We thank you for her courage and for her ability and just her strength to be able to continually say yes to you. Watch over them, bless them, protect them. May the Lord bless you guys both, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you so much for coming with us. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you, guys.